Welcome back to another episode of Mind of Steel. This is the weekly show where I, Reynard Wilson, talk about one person only. His name is Mark Steele, and he's been described as the UK's most ludicrous conspiracy theorist because he is the person who genuinely believes that lampposts are going to kill us all. Sounds crazy, you might think, but maybe not so crazy once you give him a listen. Perhaps Mark's ideas have some validity to them, and perhaps it's completely unfair that he's been kicked out of forums, both real and virtual. He's no longer on Facebook. His YouTube account got cancelled, and he's been banished from Twitter, which is really quite an achievement these days. But that's not to say that he's been silenced, no. The truth movement has a whole intellectual dark web in which keen minds like to challenge each other with tough and incisive hardball questions. And perhaps amongst the truth movement, there is nobody tougher as an interviewer than this pair of people who call themselves Drake, Michigan.
So because your background is academic, or you're very clever, like in the brain, if you like, with all the...
It seems that we are in luck today because we are going to have an episode all about Mark Steele's religious beliefs. And who better than Drake, Michigan, to ask the incisive, the profound, the probing, the deep questions that will no doubt penetrate into the very essence of Mark Steele.
So, was your background not a belief in sort of? Was you very much like man science, that focused that way?
No, I wouldn't say. Well, the thing is with science, right? If you're there's a guy called Professor Nick Bostrom, right, and he wrote a paper, and it's called Simulation Hypothesis.
Well, it stands to reason that Mark believes in the simulation hypothesis because it's just about the most nihilistic thing that anybody could believe in. That it makes perfect sense for the person who believes that he's the player character in a world of non-player characters. That the world is just a video game, and anything that you want to be true can be true.
It's basically saying this is a matrix. Now, obviously, I've read quite a bit on quantum mechanics. Now, if it's a matrix, then somebody's built it. Yeah. If this is a digitized reality, then somebody's had to manufacture it, and that's who you could say is God. Yeah.
I think Mark is getting confused between the actual universe in which we live and the 2003 film Matrix Reloaded, which introduced the concept that within the Matrix there's a character called the Architect who designs the simulation that the fictional character of Neo and his little friends all live in.
The basic physics, science, analysis of the world is absolutely fantastic. It fits like a jigsaw puzzle, and you see a picture, say atoms, and the atomic number, the amount of electrons, and the atomic weight, everything fits perfectly. Yeah, perfectly understands. And then as soon as you open the little curtain back, it just goes, shit, not like that at all.
Mark's mystical jigsaw is actually just some concepts from basic chemistry. This is the kinds of things that if we were paying attention in chemistry lessons, we'd have learnt probably before the age of 16. But to Mark's audience, this is advanced science, because Mark, even though he's a high school dropout, is talking to an audience that is even less scientifically literate than he is.
You see, I understand from the quantum mechanics perspective, we speak the source. You are source. Your DNA is an antenna talking to source. So you see, their whole plan is to take down your antenna, do the whole earthly thing, right?
Yeah.
So
What the creator?
They want you away from the creator. They want you to stop talking to source. That's why they don't want you access to the sun. As the sun shines, that's why they're blocking out the sun. They're blocking out the sun because this is the ascension. This is end of times.
I included that clip not because I had a witty comment or funny thing to say about what Mark Steele was just saying then. No, I included it because I have literally no idea what he's talking about. So maybe if you have an idea of what Mark actually means by this, please just put your wild speculations in the comments. That they can't be any wronger than what I'm thinking of right now, because what I'm thinking of makes absolutely zero sense.
Always look at things from another perspective. Like when you're looking at things to develop products and all the rest of it, like you've always got to sort of think. It's probably one of the reasons why Einstein was pretty, he was an interesting character, because he looked at patterns all day. Well, I was a pattern writer.
Yes, Mark Steele did just compare himself to Einstein.
So I'd be looking at patterns. You see where Einstein was quite adept. He was a patent attorney. So he'd be looking at things that are completely different all the time. So you see, you'd be sitting, you know, when we're all at school and we're looking out the window, the teacher's talking complete utter shit. We're looking at the window thinking, I don't know what's going on there. You know what I mean? Your mind works a different way.
Mark Steele and Albert Einstein, they lived astonishingly similar lives. Take, for example, the fact that Albert Einstein was born in Gateshead and attended school until the age of 16, whereupon he left school and joined a family-owned fence installation company. He spent a time as a welding apprentice before taking on a series of jobs as a bouncer in some of Newcastle's nightclubs and pubs. It was at the time when Albert Einstein was working as a bouncer that he accidentally shot and terribly injured a teenage girl, causing her to have to spend many years of therapy in order to regain the ability to walk. It was that, unfortunately, that caused Albert Einstein to be sentenced to 2 years in a British prison, during which time I'm sure Albert Einstein came up with many of his most important scientific discoveries. It's really, really very difficult to tell Mark Steele and Albert Einstein apart, isn't it? Now, the next bit is a little bit hard to follow because he suddenly changes subject, but oh boy, it's a big one. Mark would like to lecture us on information technology, and in particular, he wants to talk about some platforms from that famous company, Microsoft. In particular, there are some words he speaks in the next section that you might find difficult to follow. He's referring to Windows NT and Microsoft Azure.
The Chinese can hack into WinT, believers that can hack into Azure, because Bill Gates ain't good at protecting these cloud-based platforms. Zigbee's another platform that operates on all those platforms already compromised.
Shares in Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services are going to go sky high now that Mark has revealed that Azure has been hacked.
So anybody hacks into it, that could be the North Koreans, that could be the Russians, it could be the Chinese, or similarly, it could be some kid sitting in his bedroom in Birmingham, gets on his computer, a bit of a whiz kid, cracks into that system.
This sounds oddly specific, doesn't it? What does Mark know about this kid from Birmingham?
And then he goes, right, I'll just kill him. Oh, there's a little copper here I didn't like the look of. Do him. Because they've all got these, they've all been out and queued up and got the antennas. So, not going to be very good, I can tell.
Oh, yes, murdering people is fun, isn't it, Mark? What a funny joke you just told.
By telling you that your local council's trying to murder you or your government's trying to exterminate you, and you were frightened by that, that can be seen as an offence.
But wait, Mark, you can't just go scaring people. All these frightening things you say about lampposts murdering people, right? There might be old people and people who are feeble of mind who might believe you, and they might get upset. You might get in trouble, Mark, for saying stuff like that. Don't you think you ought to have a plan?
right? From a scientific perspective, I know I'm correct. However, that wouldn't protect you in law if I frightened somebody. What would political cover? So what I did, we came up with that. All right, Save Us Now, right? Save Us Now political party. It's the SUN.
What Mark had in his hand was a sort of sheriff's badge made of silver painted plastic with the logo of SUN, Save Us Now, Mark's political party. And Mark has realised that if he says things that are offensive, untrue, or even offensively untrue, but he does it under the aegis of a political party, you can say anything you want and nobody can come back at you. What a genius. Well, Mark, any final words before we sign off?
Hey, listen, we're going to smash these Satanists down the hole to hell where they came
I like
off.
the sound of that.
100%, brother.
I like the sound of that.
100%. Thank you, Mark.
All right,
Have a
pal.
good one.
See you
Thank
later.
you, Mark. Thank you. 100%. Yeah. Great one, Mark. Thanks. See ya. Great. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks. It's been a blast. We've learnt so much, starting with the fact that our universe is not as it seems. We live in a simulation. Mark Steele has revealed that, and he ought to be well used to revealing things because, as we've also learned, Mark's life has been inextricably twinned with that of Albert Einstein. And we've learned as well that if you are a user of Microsoft's Windows NT or the Azure platform, then there's a child in Birmingham who might be using your cloud computing infrastructure to murder police officers. And apparently we're cool with that. But most of all, I think we've learned about Mark's brilliant plan to allow him to go on talking utter nonsense in public. And that plan is embodied in a small silver star-shaped badge that's a sort of bizarre comical parody of the kind of thing that an American sheriff would carry. It's the Save Us Now official constable's badge, and I'm sure as hell going to be applying for mine right now. Who knows what trouble I'll get into once I start flashing it around the city where I live. Anyway, what a ride it's been. I do look forward to joining you again for another episode of Mind of Steel.